you.
Ladies first.
We should start with Izzy, then hold on for the mic.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you so much. How are you, first off?
I'm great.
That's glad to hear.
I'm warning you all now, I'm probably going to start crying at some point because I'm very emotional right now, but I'm great.
I feel you. Well, congratulations on your huge win tonight. Before AEW Revolution, we saw you in 2 pay-per-view matches that were absolutely brutal. Those type of matches take years off of people inside the ring. How many more of those type of matches do you have in you?
Hopefully none, honestly. They're hard. It sucks when like Kismet stuff sort of happens, you know, and it points you in a very brutal direction, you know. I think dog collar matches are stupid dangerous. I'm happy I still have all my teeth and I didn't even chip one today. But they're very brutal, and it's hard, I think, for fans to understand exactly how brutal they are. You know, I think most people have been punched in the face once or twice in their life, so they can kind of relate to that. But having like, you know, 12, 20 feet of loggers chain attached to your neck, it sucks, and it's one of those why am I doing this moments. But it's just kind of a love letter to Roddy Piper. I mean, my career, I had a couple of good dog collar matches with some good people, and it just kind of made sense to, you know, to tell that story.
Thank you.
In the back there, please.
Oh, Righteous Reg of Pro Wrestling Illustrated and Grab City Podcast. Great match. Seems like you were having a lot of fun, even though it was super brutal, which is fun. Everybody got a little fake out with MJF and the Cult of Personality, but you pivoted and brought back the AFI theme. How important was it to kind of pay tribute to yourself of the past with the gear and the theme and everything?
I mean, it's pretty important, you know. I loved ROH so much, you know, and I can't explain how happy I am that like my footage, it's in good hands, you know. It's just good to know that it's in the hands of somebody who treat it well. I literally feel like my baby is in somebody's hands that I know will raise the child the right way and do good things with it, and you know, it won't get made into just some tab on a shitty, confusing app that's hard to navigate, and the boys don't get paid anything off it. You know what I mean? So it's just, it was, you know, it's very good. But to kind of pay homage to, you know, myself and stuff like that. Listen, I didn't get to do this for 7 years. This didn't exist for 7 years for me. And you know, obviously the truth is that I love professional wrestling very much. So, you know, to come back and to be able to, for 6 months, you know, it's not just do whatever the fuck you want. It's doing whatever the fuck you want and being cocky enough to know that your way is not the right way. There's never only one right way, but it's fucking good. Yes. And to have somebody that listens to you, and to have somebody that can take an idea and make it even better, and just to have an open dialogue, not just with him, but with other people in the locker room. And it's great that you don't have to beat your head against the wall and explain, you know, like why your ideas are shitty and why I don't care who you think you are, that you don't know what you're doing. And it's nice. It's everything's just so great. I don't even know if I answered your question.
You did. Thank you.
In the back, please.
Brian Rhodes, ESPN West Palm. You were away from wrestling for a while. How special is it to have these positive feelings about pro wrestling again?
I'm sick of crying. Today's been today's been brutal crying. First time I cried today is when they showed me my ring jacket. They replaced the skull and bones with silhouette of Larry. I started crying. After my match, somebody came up to me. I don't need to say who, and they were just like, "You're gonna hate me for saying this, but I do this because of you." You know, I saw Straight Edge Society, and I was blown away. And I went to WrestleMania to watch you and Rey Mysterio, and I got into wrestling because of you. And I didn't know that this particular individual got into wrestling or anything because of me. So it's just, man. I'll put it to you like this: I love Bret Hart, and Bret Hart's career was cut short, and it's a goddamn tragedy because there's people that go over Saudi Arabia and they get paid millions of dollars, and you know that should have been Bret. You know, and I just feel super fortunate and grateful and appreciative that I got a second chance. You know, I'd give it up in a heartbeat to give it to Bret, but I'm going to enjoy it. And I just love that motherfucker so much. You know, like he's the greatest, and he was right. He was fucking Bret Hart is always right.
Nick?
Punk, you, thank you. Punk, Nick Hausman with Wrestling Inc. You participated in a very emotional Esquire piece the past week or so, and I think it showed a lot of people a different side of you that I don't know that I ever expected you to do that and put that out there like that. How did you get sold on participating in that, and what does it mean to you to have the full story, at least from your perspective, the perspective of many others in your life?
Oh man, I don't know, buddy. It's not the full story. All that stuff is really, really hard to talk about. I don't like talking about myself, like, you know, and especially about all that stuff. But again, I think it's pretty important to illustrate that I came out on the other side. You know what I mean? All that shit could have destroyed me, you know, being unjustly sued, and, you know, a lot of people could have stood up, said something, helped out, you know, but they didn't, because, you know, they value their jobs or whatever, and, you know, a lot of them are now fired and work here now too, so that's always interesting. It's just important to show people that, you know, recognize when you got a second chance, jump on it, and be grateful and appreciative, you know. I think so it's important to tell those painful stories.
Next question.
Jose Montesino from Lucha Libre Online. First of all, I want to thank you. I have this tattoo here. I tattooed this when I have 14, 15 years old. I'm going to explain you why.
You keep crying, it's cool.
I was in high school and I was having a lot of issues with people. I was realizing that
I have a lot of issues with people too.
I realized that society was having a lot of issues, and watching you raise your voice helped me to be the guy that I am today. With that being said, who do you see in the back and you say, hey, this guy reminds me of me when I was beginning?
I mean, I just look at like every single young kid. I think there's a lot of young kids back here. They're barely 25. You know, some are teenagers, and I think it's important to treat them the way I wanted to be treated by people that were in, you know, management roles and abused them. You know, I think it's important to listen to every voice back there, and again, my way's not the right way, but you know, we can always talk about stuff and figure out what the best idea is, and I try to just kind of lead by example. I don't, you know, I never pretend to be a leader or anything like that. I just try to treat people the way I wanted to be treated, and hope that they can, you know, maybe learn from watching or asking questions or stuff like that. There's a lot of people. I waste all your time because I would just literally name everybody in the locker room. You know, I do think, just from a youth movement standpoint, AEW is in really, really good hands.
Niger, front row.
Thank you, Niger, Big O Belt Media. I know you're having a lot of fun in the wrestling ring right now. Any chance we see you back on the big screen in any capacity?
Big screen or little screen? Yeah, I'm actually way too busy right now. I don't know how much I can talk about. So just know that I have too many jobs. And the answer to your question is yes, 100%, absolutely. Big and little screen.
Okay, one more question for Punk. Hold on for the microphone.
For here?
We just do it with here. Yep, just, there you go.
Bringing it back, Punk, it's Jay Reddick with the Orlando Sentinel. Bringing it back to the night for just a second, talk to me about where the idea to tell the story through a dog collar match and some of the historical callbacks you guys had. Where did that come from?
I think a lot of it can maybe be a happy accident, but if we're gonna, you know, God, I still feel weird about, you know, whatever. Obviously, I love Roddy Piper. I don't think it's a secret that MJF loves Roddy Piper. I think it's important to, while telling, you know, stories, you can always go back to the bedrock of professional wrestling. And I think especially now that we live in such a weird time where there's professional wrestling fans, and then there's the weird WWE fans, and that's all they've ever seen. So they actually, it's like they don't know other stuff exists, and they don't know that there's other ways of telling stories and doing things, and you know, so everything is just a love letter to professional wrestling. I think sometimes I can maybe be a little too cute for my own good, but I'm having the time of my life, you know. And I think Roddy Piper is one of the greatest of all time. I think Bret Hart is the greatest of all time. I think, you know, Randy Savage is the greatest of all time. And, you know, there's a company out there that likes to spin their own yarns and have revisionist history about who truly is great and who, you know, never existed. And we don't do that here. We don't pretend to live in a bubble. You know, we live in the real world. So, you know, Roddy Piper's my hero, and I wish he was here, because I would really like to see how disappointed he is in me right now.
Thank you very much.
Oh, is that it? I'm done?
You can do more. You can do more.
I'm going to ask Sean why I haven't blocked on Twitter.
I don't know why.
I must have said something.
I
really
tweeted you
stupid.
about Joe Kenda. You talked about
You must have
Discovery
said
Channel.
something
I
stupid.
swear I did.
There's no way I'd block you, because did you insult Joe Kenda? 'Cause that
No, Joe Kenda's the legend. Are we? Am I wrong?
I'm not unblocking you. I just go ahead.
Okay. Well,
Hold on
I
for
mean,
the mic. Hold on, guys.
Sean.
Thank you.
Go ahead, John.
Whatever you go to, as long as you want.
So-
Look at this guy.
we see you
We're off the
emotional
clock, guys. We're
now.
off the clock.
We see you emotional now. How were you when you? I mean, what was your reaction when you found out Tony was buying ROH? Because that had to be a pretty special moment.
Like I said, I was relieved, you know, because obviously, let's talk facts. It was either Tony was going to buy it or Vince was going to buy it, and I don't want Vince to own any of my footage. He owns enough of it. You know, he owns enough of it that I don't get paid off of it. People need to understand that when I left, I was asking questions about the network, which had not been launched yet. I was saying, how am I going to get paid off this? We don't even understand what the pay scale is. I don't know if I get paid off a gate for a pay-per-view, off a buy rate for a pay-per-view. You guys already just throw darts at an imaginary board, and you pay me whatever you want. I still get royalties, that's the only hard copy thing I see is DVD sales. So once all the DVDs go away and you're just putting stuff up on the network, I'm not getting paid. Or am I? Tell me, let's talk about it. Oh, my guy, you're good. Oh, yeah, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. They couldn't tell me. And now I've watched my royalty checks, which I still get, dwindle to nothing because they just put everything on the network. And the boys don't get paid. That's not just me, that's everybody. That's criminal.
Hand the mic to John.
Hey, John Alba Podcast. I think a lot of us would agree that pro wrestling is kind of at its best when you emote something and the fans feel with the match that they're watching, and your feud with MJF was full of different individual moments like that. When you look back on this, how proud of the story that you told are you, and what was your experience like working with Max?
I'm super proud of it. I do not say this lightly. I could be done again, you know. I wasn't having so much goddamn fun. I feel this was taken away from me. I feel I got a second chance and I came back, and you know, being the best is a subjective thing. I think some people, you know, I think Brian's the best. I think Brett's the best. Some people think I'm pretty good. But to be able to come back after 7 years and knock the dust off, I think I did pretty fucking good for a 42-year-old guy who didn't take bumps for 7, 8 years. And I'll pat myself on the back for that one. You know what I mean? I'm still not as old as damn, what's his name? Who's in Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze?
Terry Funk.
Sam Elliott? Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott was 45 when he did Roadhouse. I still got
You're not
time.
as old as Terry Funk.
I still got time. But yes, I do that. I wrestled Terry Funk when he was almost 60, so I'm okay. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Okay, one more right here.
Hi, my name is Justin from the Wrestling Classic. First things first, I want to say I started that page a month after you left, but it's because of you I got back into wrestling, so thank you.
I'm sorry.
Also, I apologize that's the page MJF said got him to want to drive home and wrestle because
It's fine.
that was my bad.
Max, you know,
Yeah.
he owes me a lot.
But that being said, secondly too, I want to say as a Canadian, I'm very happy how much you love Bret Hart. That's really cool. But lastly, at the end of the match, you kind of made a signal that you want to go for the championship. Is that something we'll be looking forward to soon?
I mean, I think so. I mean, there's people that want to wrestle here, you know, just for wrestling's sake. But after a while, you know, you gotta. I don't know if I have I don't know how much time I have. I don't know how many matches I have left. So if I'm not working my way towards the title shot, if I'm not trying to be where Hangman is, I don't know what I'm doing. So I do think that is something that might happen. Keep your eyes on it. I don't know. There's a ranking system here, so I think I'm doing pretty good. And we'll see what I like Hangman now. See, that's the problem. You know, it's a lot easier to wrestle somebody when you hate them. But I like that cowboy.
Here we go. Joel.
Thank you. Hi, Joel Torres from Contralona. Every day we learn. We learn something different. Did you learn something working with Maxwell? And what's that thing that you learned that you can share with us?
I learned that there's hope because there's kids just like me who love the business for all the right reasons, and just kind of love the classics. You know, it's like kids still start with garage bands and play Ramones covers. You know what I mean? And you know, fuck them. But Max is one of those kids. You know, it's weird, right? Because he's a kid who grew up and he was a WWF fan, but he's kind of a savant. because he went back and like he watches like some of the most obscure stuff, and he loves all kinds of wrestling except for maybe New Japan. I think he hates New Japan. But just knowing that there's kids like that that put in the work, that study the history, and you get it, and they're respectful, and just, there's hope. Thank you.
Last question with AJ.
Once again, great match tonight. And how was your time training with Harley Race?
Research done.
Great question.
There's hope for
Great.
generation.
Great question.
I thankfully, I never actually trained with Harley. He would just book me on his shows, and he would throw up in my car, and I would ride on his boat, and the most horrible thing would happen is he would just drive the boat, and every time he said, beer, I had to hand him a beer, and I was always like, maybe you shouldn't be driving the boat. But just being in his house, it's weird, right? Do you ever get hit with a stun gun? No? I don't recommend it. Shut your whole body off. I thought I pissed myself, but he hit me in the butt with it. It's not fun. But that's kind of cool, right? Because Harley Race liked me enough to zap me with a stun gun. I think that's pretty neat. But I did learn a lot from him. He refereed a bunch of my matches. There was one particular match, I think every time I got taken over in a headlock takeover, he would bend down and he would check on me. He'd be like, what do you say? And he would stick both his fingers up my nostrils. And it was awful because he had gigantic hands. He would just jam his middle finger and his pointer finger like in my nose, and it sucked. But I just being around him, I learned a ton from him. He was a pretty hard trainer, so thankfully I never had to roll around and take bumps. But just being on shows, he was this is peeling back the curtain. I'm not supposed to say words like this, but he's the guy who taught me how to make a blade. And I think he would be pretty goddamn proud of me right now.
Thank you.
This poor guy looks so worried. Let's get him out of the way. Yeah, you got it. Hard as lasers, hot as fuck in here. Poor guy.
Last question.
Thank you so much, Punk. Spencer Valdez, NSM Today at UCF. You've previously gone on record mentioning professional wrestling as one of the great original American art forms along with comic books and jazz music. And I noted during your match, and as well as Danielson versus Moxley tonight, that there is something delightful akin to jazz music in watching two competitors figure it out in the ring with their psychology. What are some correlations that you can make between professional wrestling and jazz?
Great question.
Well, my deep jazz background. You could have said comic books, and I could have spun that.
Comics works too.
I mean, good and evil. Bad guys versus good guys. Comic books is pro wrestling. Larger than life characters, but also characters people can identify with. Some people love the Incredible Hulk. Nobody here knows anybody that's the Incredible Hulk, but everybody here knows somebody who's Peter Parker. Everyday kid, got a big secret. Great power comes great responsibility. Just stuff like that. I think a lot of the times we are larger than life characters, but then you get a guy like me who's pretty much not. There was a quote in that Esquire piece from me. I think it was from a young lady named Lindsay Kelk, and she said that you knew when the Undertaker was done, he was changing out of his gear, and he was getting in a car, and he was driving home or whatever. And you can't really picture that guy, top hat, driving a car or whatever. But CM Punk was, I'm one of you, and when I win, you win, because chances are you know a dude like me. Wear fucking sneakers for too long until my back starts to hurt because I've worn out the soles, and I have one pair of jeans, and I wear a hoodie, and love my dog and my wife, you know what I mean? And I wear my heart on my sleeve, and honest to a fault. And so I think a lot of times kids can watch that and see that, and it's just like sometimes picking up a comic book and reading the comic book, and seeing a kid like Peter Parker, who's just like, he was a high schooler, he lives with his Aunt May, you know? Just stuff that can humanize people. So I think that's how those two things are similar. And jazz and pro wrestling, you got me and you got Brian right now, and you told us to go in the ring and wrestle for 30 minutes, we'd be like, yeah, fine. I'm gonna talk about shit just like a good jazz musician. You can get up on stage, never meet the bass player, doesn't know who's playing drums behind him, and can just do whatever, go.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate everybody. Thank you for doing what you guys do. Thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Thank you.
I'm sick of crying.
See that? Have that removed.